paying this time around?
The sponsors that have paid and given us AI and use cases that we've been funding and all that.
Or is it?
Question is now, where's the value? Are we starting to see the value, or are we still requiring more funding just to test and keep on testing?
Oh, okay. So what initiative is this? What exactly are you?
I'm just talking about generative AI as
Oh, okay.
the technology and digital transformation that most companies are getting into. Not sure from your side as well about the funded AI projects already. Pay a budget. Not yet.
Yeah, I see there's DeepSeek now, so you can never catch up, eh? Yes. Like the world is moving so fast, so I don't know what's trending anymore. I've just started researching about this DeepSeek and stuff like that. Am I behind what?
I think you'll be behind and then you'll kind of be so far ahead of it.
Exactly, you catch up and then something else comes back and then, you try to catch up again. So I think you're just living in the world where we literally have to constantly catch up and try to catch up, learn, and learn upon learning and stuff like that.
Yeah. But then when do you get to this point of stop or pause learning and start implementing and understand what you're learning and what value can bring back to your organization and help you transform? Because I think with the way technology is going now and the trend, you wake up a week without reading the news, something new, and whatever that you thought you were going to be implementing and trying to research previous month, it's sort of outdated now. Yeah. So how do you balance that and also maybe getting data and technology? I mean, you need to be working on a strategy. So the question is, how does the strategy look like? Do you keep on refining it, or do you choose one thing and continue with it?
Evolving, I think. Yeah, the strategy, I think, especially around the data strategy, right? I think it just needs to keep evolving, because sometimes you think of a strategy as a document that you just draft.
Yes.
Put your ideas and leave it there. And you say it's done, and then you put it there, but you never really go back and see, is it still relevant? So what are the initiatives that I have in my pipeline? Is it something that I still need to keep on changing as the world is changing, I think? Because most of the data strategies are full of dust, I'm telling you. It was just something that had to be delivered, signed, approved, and then it's just sitting somewhere there.
So do you think it's that, and then it's really just adapting to day-to-day, month-to-month changes from the market, we have to do this, we have to do that, because that really needs to be a very dynamic.
I think so, but now you see our roles will now constantly change as well, right? Because I'm in the data analytics space. So my role really is just to produce insights, not really around tooling and technology per se, right? But I just want to make sure that I'm just producing insights of the company organization. But the how we actually produce those insights becomes something else. And as a person who's is leading the data analytics function, now I've become a researcher at the same time. Yeah. I've been off social media for the past 2 years, but now I need to come back because the life that you are living, nowadays, you miss it in a week and then, trust me, you've lost it all. A lot of people were talking about Trump's statement, and I had to go and look for it. I'm like, what did he say? Because, I'm trying to catch up. So even the roles as well that we are fulfilling, the traditional roles that we are fulfilling now, I think we really need to look deep into changing our job specs as well, because there's part of researching that we also need to do as well before we onboard any tooling or technology that's coming.
Yeah, actually, what we're talking about recently in my structure was being intentional about research and development, having an academia,
clear plan about what
plan and have a resource that just focuses on tech research and development, and will then research tech trends, and when research tech trends and understand the business strategy, what we're trying to do, and would advise us to say, guys, this is just hype, or it's good and related to our business strategy. If it's related to our business strategy, that's when we say, okay, fine, let's start doing research further into finding the use cases and POCs and all that. But without getting a go-ahead from this research and development team, then we don't need to worry about, we continue as business as usual. Because then now, once you start getting your strategy and the business goals led by tech, and not necessarily looking at what we need to do, and ask yourself a question, if we're not doing it well, what tech can we bring to assist us? So that way, we sort of run away from expecting specific roles that are focused on delivering to also do research. So you can do it in a personal space and just to develop yourself and be in a position to ask questions and counter what the guys who are proposing the transformation are saying. Because at the end of the day, it's your division and you own the budget and you have to answer back to it on ROI.
Yeah. And I think we've had this conversation over the years at the events and things like that. It's almost like change for change's sake, right? And kind of like we must have AI because everyone else is doing AI. Is your business ready for AI? And I think that's a massive thing right now, right? Is AI readiness is...
Yeah, it's something else because I normally say I'm an advocate for data quality, and I always bring it back to say there's these technologies, there are these trends in terms of tooling and stuff like that. But when are we going to have a pause and say, okay, let's just look at the readiness, to your point, Greg? Like, how is our data? Because in most cases, yes, you'll bring these beautiful tools, right? Generate beautiful insights, but you still find that the data is incomplete. AI cannot fix that for you. But surely it can identify it for you, maybe, but it cannot fix, the uniqueness of the data. You find that maybe duplicated records will appear, and then you look at things like timeliness. Do I have the most recent record? Things like that, validity, is it even valid? So I normally advocate for that to say maybe I know we are living in a very fast-paced technology era, but when are we ever going to pause a minute and say, okay, guys, let's just make sure that our data is correct before we introduce these beautiful things? Because at the end of the day, the business would never be happy. I was in the instance, for an example, where we had to generate beautiful insights, but literally what the business did, they looked at what we produced and they looked at what they currently produced. And they were like, no, Faith, your numbers are short. They didn't care about the work that was put in there. They're like, the numbers are short. I'm expecting to see maybe a 9 billion and you're giving me an 8 billion. And unfortunately, we can't use it. Goes back to data quality.
Yeah, but it's all come back to those sort of real expectations. It was almost kind of like massaging the data and the insights to get the results you want versus the truth, right? And it's like, well, it needs to be accurate, but not too accurate. How do you kind of fight? Because that's a fight that data people have been having for so long now, is get that data quality right, the data management, the governance. It just seems like a bit of a never-ending cycle and fight to be having internally.
It's never ending, I'm telling you, because remember when there's a need for initiative, right? We've got different stakeholders that are playing part. We've got the sponsor of the project who actually gave us money, right? And what they are looking for, they're just looking at the working end product. That's what they're after. This must work, right? And then we've got like your program managers and your project managers that are pushing timelines. For them, it's like, when are you going to get it done? It's not necessarily around how, it's like when. And when you're saying by December, it needs to be December. And then you have people who are working on the initiative, on the project themselves, and they encounter issues like data quality. And they're like, okay, it's fine, we can produce it, but on our project plan, data quality or data cleansing was not part of the plan. So we can't really, we will identify it, raise it as a risk, as an issue, but we can't go there because everybody's is saying, you said December you are delivering. And then we will push to deliver, but what is it exactly that we're delivering? Because sometimes you will try to raise it and you say, guys, these are the issues you have, depending on the interest of a stakeholder. To my point, like the sponsors and the program managers, they will just want us to get the project done, delivered. And then you've got people that are like business, they're like, no, but we can't continue in this route because this is not my data. So the fight is always there. Sometimes they will come and they will blame us as an executing team to say, hey, your numbers are wrong. But we're like, my role is just to show the data that's there, garbage in, garbage out. And it's that debate, and it goes back to the point of massaging. In most cases, you find that the business massages the data. They get it raw, but because they know what the issues are, they will do their mini Excel cleansing, do their adjustments, and then report. But when you are showing them, like how data looks like from the golden source, then it becomes the tech problem, not the business problem, the capturers and, So it's yeah.
Yeah, so let's talk a little bit about that, like who owns the data in the organization, because that is always like a bit of
owns the
a
data?
deep conversation and an argument, right? What are your thoughts, Kambutsa?
Look, business owns the data.
Yeah.
Business is accountable. It then just, at the end of the day, the business contracts with business partners to service that data.
Yeah.
So that is why when you want to make a decision or say there is a breach, a regulator is coming, who has to answer? It's not
Yeah.
IT, it's not CTO.
Yeah.
It's the business that needs to answer. It's the business that needs to provide response. If there is a penalty or a fine, it's the business that has to account for it.
Yeah.
So one thing that I think the business is not doing well, and it's just something that we've tried on our end to do, you want to have a relationship owner in the business who understand what you're contracting out with the business partners. So in other words, I think FNB does it well. The FNB sort of has a CDO for every business.
Yeah, pretty much in every unit, I think, yeah.
Yeah, every unit. So if you've got a CDO for every unit or a business data specific owner and a tech owner who understands the language and understand the contracting thereof as to what should be in the ALS and SLAs and what are the things and the controls in place that we are good to go, or you're protecting my data correctly or not. Simple thing, something that we're discussing now, we said we need to have a sign off, business readiness sign off, that if tech is going to deploy a technology, what are the non-negotiables? One, we're talking about data quality. Entry point, if it's a front advisor or employee facing front end, where we know that this is an critical entry point for ID numbers, this is a critical entry point for cell phone numbers, for address. It means that as an organization, we want to have standardized controls in place where we tell tech, and that's the business decision, where we tell tech that if you deploy this solution without an ID number validation, as a control, it's not ready for deployment, we're not taking it. If it doesn't have a cell phone number quality check in it, we're not taking it. If it doesn't verify an address, if address is critical for us, then we're not taking, you're not done with your deployment. So at the end of the day, we take it to them to solve tech-related issues. We take accountability of the data and the quality of the data ourselves by defining that. But if in a business you're not defining it, the only thing is you get a subject matter expert who's maybe been in an organization for 6 months just to tell you what the process is. Tech will always deliver based on just saying we're done. I mean, how many migrations have been done in organizations where you know that data is horrible and all they're chasing and they go celebrate and say we're done with migration, just like what Faith said now.
Yeah.
This is my timeline, this is my deadline. But as business, we own it and we need to equip businesses to be able to drive requirements. So have a tech owner, have a data owner in the business, have a legislation owner in the business, so that then the business partners just don't just enforce things and go by just delivering without having an interest on business. Because when I see it from a data perspective in the business, my division sits in the business, and that's why I speak like this. I understand our customers. I understand the business ambitions.
Yeah.
So when I advocate for it, it's not necessarily just on the tech side and data side. The first thing I'm thinking customer experience, I'm thinking employee experience. Then what I put together as requirements sort of then covers the business and the future prevention of those penalties and fines that will be responded to the regulator.
Yeah.
But you see where I see the gap? I think I see where the gap is, right? Do we ever check for feasibility? The business has requirements and the IT function is to deliver. In most cases, we take the requirements, we go and work. I think we should have I'm not sure if I'm going to call it a phase within the project where we are saying, I know the business have an ask, but can they give us a period to go and assess what could be done and what could not be done? And then look at the gaps to say what, due to what we have, this is how far we can go with the initiative. But for it to be a success, these are the stop signs that we have that we really need to be aware of and make sure that if there are any pre-initiatives that we need to do before the main project needs to be done first, fixed for us to deliver the end product, which is the entire project. Because in most cases, based on my experience, the business will sometimes they will tell us what even if they've never driven a Ferrari, but they would want a Ferrari to say, yeah, we know it's fast and we want it.
Can't handle it.
Yeah, it's fast and we want it.
Yeah.
But the truth and the matter of fact is that they don't know what it takes to build a Ferrari. So are we ever gonna, before we start something, pause and do that feasibility study within our organization and see do we have the right tools to build the Ferrari, or maybe we can go as far as Polo?
I'm smiling because this is what I touched on a bit in November at the Cape Town Data Festival. So the answer to that, or the reason why you're going to find such gap, is when you've got disconnected architectural disciplines.
Wow.
So the connection, the relationship between architectural disciplines in the organization are the ones, or is the one that enables that insight and the feedback to say this is possible or it's not. Because what it does, when a business gives requirement, you want to have enterprise architecture that it's connected to business architecture. So business architecture exposes the base architecture of how the business capabilities and what we have today has. So they go and test the future or the to-be architecture of what the business is proposing. And out of that, they start identifying, hold on, you want to bring integrated financial services, for an example, as what you want to deliver. But you want to have a unified customer experience across your businesses. This is your strategy and this is what you want to achieve, you want to do, right? But look at that architecture is going to define the different customer entry points out of these businesses and how those onboarding processes and customer lifecycle are different. And we'll start then saying, actually, you want something that is unified, that can allow to onboard different customers from this. As F&B as an example, you want to onboard wealth customer, and retail customer on the same experience, on the same platform, so that you've got a 360 view. If that's your ambition and architecture is not first advising you on that, that's when you're going to have a gap of response and feedback to say it's possible or it's not, or it's going to cost you so much or it's going to take so long. But architectures are there. Architectural disciplines are there. The issue is they are not connected. They are in silos. EA has their own repository, defines the catalog and business elements themselves. But those business elements are not connected to the lowest level of what the business processes are. They do not speak down to the business. So when you touch it and understand enterprise architecture at the enterprise level, without understanding what the impact is in business, you're never going to advise business. Right. And again, on top of that, where should business architecture sit? Sit in business. But businesses are not creating a budget for business architecture and proper business process management capability to link up to the enterprise architecture so that everything speaks to each other. Because, I'm closing now, just one thing that you want to do, if you use an ERP system or simple thing, you use an ERP system, multiple businesses or multiple areas, you find that in another area, you're calling a staff code, others are calling it an employee number. Yeah. Right.
Same thing, different names.
Yeah. Same thing, different names. We are not standardizing. But if you want to understand that what is the impact of an employee number, what does it speak to across all data entities in the organization, you're actually going to search employee number and not find another one because others are using a different
data lineage.
Data lineage, right? Same applies to what? To applications. So you want data architecture to connect to applications where you understand that this data moves to these data sources. These data sources, their front ends are these applications that are being used. And out of these applications that are being used, these are the processes that these applications support.
Yeah.
And out of these processes, these are the legislations and policies that govern these processes. So that then, if ever there is a legislation change, POPIA comes and say we're updating, all you do is search POPIA and you get the nexus and traceability of what POPIA impacts. You get all the artifacts, you get the data sources that you need to fix and all that. So that's when you have an integrated architectural disciplines that enable you and enable the business to advise on the ambitions to say they're traceable or not.
True, and it seems like those things are things that are supposed to be there before any project is started, because I'm picking up business glossary as well. That is going to sit at the group level to say an employee number is an employee number, not something else. That's how we call it here in this business, and that's how it should be. And also the origin of the employee number, which employee number is correct, right? Which one are we taking? Are we taking, for an example, an instance, you go to the gym, right? And what they take is a unique identifier. They will ask you for a cell phone number. But you go to Home Affairs, they looking for an ID number. You know, you go to a bank, for an example, sometimes they'll ask you for a cell phone number, but in most cases they'll ask you for an ID, and they both identify you. They are unique identifiers. But if we would have a set business glossaries, we would know exactly when we are looking for a unique employee number or a customer number that identified somebody. It should be either a cell phone number in this instance or an ID in this instance, because it cannot be either or, because it won't speak to the data lineage now. Somehow it will just get lost. We will not find it because we are looking for different things.
At least the ID
places.
number doesn't change.
Yeah.
Cell phone could change.
Cell phone change.
But yeah, data quality, it's a big issue. I think it requires a focus the same way we're focusing on tech, the same way we're focusing on AI and other trends. Data quality, I think, should get more budget and within data governance to
Amen. But I'm not sure anyone's listening.
Yeah, I'm sure everybody will be like,
you get what I'm saying? And look, it's that. And the other thing beyond data quality, it's an issue of, I was at the on Wednesday open group seminar, and trying to remember the prof who was talking that. She was talking about dark data, right? That as much as we're talking data quality, but there's so much data that is turning into dark data and not being used in organizations.
True.
And now the effect or ripple effect of that we are not seeing as organizations is the cost of dark data. We are not looking at how much it's costing us, and I don't know if in the long run organizations will be looking at the cost of data as an ESG metric, because you look at the
Data centers.
Yeah. You look at electricity that is being used and how we generate electricity.
Especially now Gen AI and the compute and everything that goes with it as well. Like there's definitely an environmental impact on it there.
Correct. So do you start now, while dealing with the data quality, also extend to probe the management of dark data to say, to what extent do you want to keep it? Because other people, and that's what we're discussing. I mean, for financial services as an example, they've got a fear of unknown. They don't want to delete data because they think, what do
Risk side,
10 years down the line or 5 years down the line, we've got a case relating to this product. How do we go and evidence the history of actually what happened?
Yeah.
You know, so that at the end of the day requires some sort of thinking back into data governance and data quality to say, how do you then start managing that data? Can you translate it back to the company cost?
Sure.
To your cost as to how much data you're actually keeping in the business? How much does it cost you? Do you make it as part of a metric to say you want to actually to reduce or this your threshold going forward?
Sure, but are we even capturing the right data, or are we just capturing garbage?
Well, it's kind of like a byproduct of business, isn't it? It's just kind of like exhaust fumes.
Exactly.
You're running the business and the data just creates. It's not, you don't have synthetic data.
Yeah.
And data just is effectively a byproduct of transactions,
Sure.
client onboarding, all that sort of thing. Even if you look at all your digital, web data, all that sort of thing, it just happens. You can't turn it off.
You can't.
Yeah.
So I think this is the biggest challenge for CDOs, CTOs, CIOs in this new year and going forward. I think it's more on the cost of what we've been doing, the cost of digital transformation, the cost of the hype that we keep on testing.
Yeah.
And I think people are going to be required to be more accountable on the returns of the money that they're spending. I think companies are getting to a point where they'll want to POS. So we've been funding a lot of, use cases, POCs. What actually are we bringing as value?
Sure.
If I have to think and look at the trends and what could be coming and what the shift in the CDAO space and CTO and all that, it's being more accountable and starting to have returns on the money that we've been spending.
Yeah.
And I think that's going to also start creating a little bit of pause, which is just going to be a little bit difficult market for service providers and tech providers because the selling point of tech and that's the challenge. I mean, they come to you, they want to sell a product, they want to get you to have the product, but at the end of the day, you find that product just solves a portion of your problems.
For sure.
And that's why you keep on having multiple products on every year. You're asking a question, why don't we pause? Have we ever just decided not to do any tech transformation in a year? Can we just maintain what we have?
Yeah, consolidate.
Consolidate, maintain and master what we have without bringing any new technology.
Maintenance, every car needs to go to being serviced, right? Every car deserves to go at least once a year. Drop it by the dealership, let it be checked and let it be serviced. Do we pause? Do we service our functions, our environments to say, okay, service time, let's just check where we are and make sure that we're at the right space.
Business never stops. Guys, I'm going to get another coffee. It's been so good chatting to you.
Great.
I'm sure we can pick up this conversation again. But
Definitely.
let's go.
Cool.